Hi and welcome to this DCP web tutorial. In today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to add a water reflection to an image using GIMP. So let's open up our web browser and we'll go to Unsplash, and in this website we can download images for free. So I want to look for something like a cityscape. So these ones won't really work. We want something that's quite clean and uniform, but it'd be better to have some buildings on this side. So let's try and find something that would work. This is the kind of effect we're trying to achieve, like this water reflection. So that's what we're trying to do. This one is a bit too dark. Could use this. This one's actually pretty good, right? It's already got water there. So we'll do some work in GIMP to remove that water. Let's use this one. So I'll click the download free and I'll keep a note of this link so you can use the same one. I'll add that link to this image in YouTube description. We'll drag this to the side and we'll open up our folder here and we'll drag and drop the image into here for now. Okay, we'll close down the web browser and let's just open up GIMP software. And all I'll do is drag and drop that picture in here and we've got the image here. So here we can see the image that we downloaded, and the first thing we want to do is get rid of the water. We don't actually want this water here. So we'll use the crop tool. So we'll click on this tool here, the crop tool, and then we'll just drag. And I really want to drag it to around here, yeah? Something like here. We want to get rid of like any of these buildings and cars and stuff down at the bottom here, and especially want to remove this boat. So you can use your mouse wheel and hold down the control key to zoom in and out, and then use the middle mouse wheel button. There's a button on your middle mouse wheel. You can hold that button down and you can use that to pan the canvas, right, to center it like this. So anything that's highlighted in a bright color is we're going to keep, and all this dull stuff down the bottom we're going to get rid of. So once you set your crop, all you do is hit the enter key on your keyboard. When you hit the enter key, that bottom section is going to get removed, you see? Okay, so we want to make a copy of this image. So before I do that, I'm going to hold down the control key and use the mouse wheel to zoom out a little bit. You can also use this tool down here to zoom in and out, yeah? So if you want to set it to 25%, that'll be 25%. I'll zoom in a little bit more to 33. Okay, so let's duplicate this image. There's a few ways to do that. For me, the easy way is just to right click on the layer here. If you don't see layers here, you see this is layers, right here, this section, then go to Window, Dockable Dialogues and select layers, and you can see all the different tools here. And you want to make sure layers is available. If you see layers, then you don't need to do that. And all we do is right click on this picture. So just right click and go to duplicate layer here and just click once. Now you've got two copies of the same image, yeah, and we want to go to image, canvas size here, and we've got this number in here 1294, and we want to double that. So it's a bit too early in the morning for me to do maths, so I'm going to open up my calculator. I'm going to times it by 2 and click equals, and we've got 2588. So I'll copy this, just right click, copy, and then we can paste it into here. So we're just doubling the height and we'll click resize here. And before it does anything, it will show you an example of that's the blank space you're going to generate. Make sure transparency is set here, yeah? Fill with transparency and click resize. Now we've got this top image and a blank section below it. So let's make sure this first layer is selected here. So just click on it. It should really go dark color. That's, you know which layer is selected. When you click on them, they'll go dark. So this is the selected layer and it will highlight around the image white, you see? So that's the selected layer, and we want to flip this image. So we want to rotate it. So we'll click on the rotate tool here, this one. And then we'll click, make sure in transform, make sure layers is selected here, layer here. Then we'll click on the picture, and in the tools here we'll set it to 180 and then click rotate. And now it's upside down. Now we want to move that image at the top to the bottom, this bottom section. So we'll use the alignment tool. So we'll click on the alignment tool here. We'll click on the picture and we make sure relative to image is selected here. And then we'll click this down arrow, bottom, align bottom of target. Click that and then it will move the image to the bottom. But you can still see we've got a slight problem. The image is flipped the wrong way. We want the moon to be in line with the moon and this tower to be in line with this tower here. So we use the flip tool here. So click on this flip tool and make sure horizontal is selected here, and then click on the picture once at the bottom, and now it's flipped over. So you can imagine the top is like our normal photo, our image, and the bottom section is going to be where the water is, the reflection. Obviously it doesn't look like water right now, and if you think about water, it's like moving and it's rippling and it's got light reflections, and we want to try and get some sort of effect, and it doesn't always look crystal clear in the water because the water is moving. It looks a bit blurry, the picture. It's not really pin sharp, but we want to try and give it that sort of effect. So let's click on the move tool here. Click on it once and make sure the top layer is selected here, and we'll go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur. And inside of here we want to just give the image a bit of a blur, not too much, maybe around sort of 6. Around 6 will be okay, maybe a little bit less. Let's do it around 5.9, around 6. Yeah, in fact we'll just type in let's click here and type in exactly 6. So when you type 6 in there, just click below and they'll both be set to 6 because you've got it locked here. It should be locked here. And all the other settings you can leave the same. Sometimes I use this split tool, split view. Make sure preview is selected, yeah, because if preview isn't selected here, as default it should be selected, but if it's not selected, you won't see the update here on the bottom image. When it is selected, you'll see the blur effect, and sometimes I use the split tool to see the original side and the blurred side to just see what it looks like, yeah. So we'll undo the split tool and we'll click OK. So set it to 6 and click OK. Now you can see it's a bit more blurry. It still doesn't really look like water yet, but we'll work on that. So the next thing we want to do is click on the alignment tool here. Oh, so actually we'll click on the Unify Transform tool here, this one. Then we'll click on the picture, and we want to stretch this picture down a little bit. So we'll hold down the control key first and use the mouse wheel to zoom out a little bit, and then we use the middle mouse button to just move the image to the top. So we've got some space to work down here. And the top of this building here, you see like you've got the little tower thing at the top here, the aerial thing, whatever it is. We want to move that down on this bottom image. So we're going to use this middle box here, click on it with the left mouse button and drag down a little bit, but not too far. We want to drag about this far, so we still want to leave a bit of a gap here, yeah? So just drag a little bit, and then we'll click transform here. So now we can see the image is stretched. This bottom one is stretched a bit more than the top because the water is going to really do something like that. Depending on the angle, it might stretch the image a little bit, the water itself, the reflection. Now let's try and let's save our work. So let's go file, save as, go to our desktop, and in here we can give it a name, right? So we'll call it, I'm just going to call it water01 and save it. So we've got a save copy. We can open up Google Chrome and we're going to go to DeviantArt. So we'll go to this website, and in here we're going to search for water texture. Search. So we're searching for water texture, and then click search on this website. And we want to find something that will work well with our image. So we don't like raindrops. This is more like a top view of an ocean sort of thing. We don't really want that. We want something in a bit of perspective. So that might kind of work. Let's see. This one will work well, yeah? Pond water. Let's try this one. So we'll click on the picture and then read the information below. It says this is an unrestricted stock resource. You don't need my permission to use it. So it says, as long as you please show me your work in a note, please link back to this website wherever possible. So you can just link back. If you use this in the YouTube description, I'm going to add a link to it anyway. So I'll copy this link, and in my YouTube description, I'll add a link to this image so that this guy gets some credit for the image. And what I'll do is just drag the image from the browser into into this folder here, like this. Yeah, or you can right click, save as, save image as, and do it that way as well. Yeah, if you can't drag and drop. So we'll close this for the moment, and we want to drag this pond water image into the layers here. So now you'll see that layer down here at the bottom right here. We want to drag this to the top, so left click on it and drag it up so it sits at the very top. Now you can see the image because it's sitting on the top layer. So think of these layers like tracing paper, and this one's sitting right at the top. And we want to reposition this. So we're going to hold down the control key and zoom in a little bit here. Something like this. And then we use the move tool. So we'll click here and then click on this picture, and we'll drag it holding down the left mouse button. And we want to zoom in a little bit more, and you can see we just need to drag it up slightly so that it's covering this image in the background, the bottom section, something like this. Yeah, so just make sure it's aligned nicely at the top there. Then we want to use the transform tool, so we click on the unified transform tool, and then we'll click on the picture, and we use this right handle to drag, and we want to drag off the screen a little bit, off the image, about this much, this sort of gap here. And we do the same on the left side, drag out a little bit here, and then we use the bottom one to drag down, and we'll drag out slightly, just a little bit. And then we want to add a little bit of we don't have to do this, but in this bottom left and right hand corner, we want to hold down the shift key, and there's this like little diamond shape. There's a square box and there's a diamond shape inside. We want to move our mouse over the diamond shape. Hold down the shift key and then left click and drag to the left, and that will give it some perspective, we could say, yeah? So about here. And then we want to do the same on the other side. So hold down the shift key, left click and drag this way as well. Holding down the shift key will stop it from like it will fix it on the canvas, so it won't like go all strange like this. Yeah, when you hold down the shift key, it will fix it on like on this line. If you move your mouse in a straight line, it will stop it from distorting too much. So we want something like this, a bit of perspective. You can see like the shape here, like this. Let's just do that. Yeah, something like this will be good. So lay out your image. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just lay out your image something like this, and then click transform. So now we can see the water in here, but obviously that doesn't look right because it's just slapped on top of the other image. So what we want to do is now take this middle image and drag it to the top. So we've got our water reflection image here, right? We'll zoom out a little. Let's zoom in and out. We'll leave it like this. Let's go to File, Save. Let's save our work. In fact, we'll go to File. Yeah, we can go to File, Save As. And normally I'll make a second version because I'm doing some updates here, right? Save As, second version. Doesn't matter if you click Save or Save As. It doesn't matter. It's nice to have steps. What I normally do is when I'm doing work like this, if I do a big part of the work and I think it looks good, then I save it as a second version, and then a third version, and a fourth version. So if I want to come back later and I want to do something different at one of them stages, I can easily go back to stage 2, 3 or 1 or whichever it is and work with the image at that particular point. That's the only reason why I save it in stages. So the last thing we want to do is click on the top image, go to filter and go to map and then displace here. Click on that, and then in the auxiliary inputs here, 1 and 2, we'll click on the first one where it's got this big question mark, and we'll click on this water pond texture, the one in the middle. Double click, and we do the same for the bottom one. Double click. So we see these two images in here. Then we can drag the, make sure displacement mode is set to this setting here, Cartesian, and then the sampler cubic and the abyss policy is clamp. And then horizontal and this vertical displacement, we need to make sure the lock is here, so make sure it's locked here, it's joined together, and we'll drag to the side a little bit. And this is down to your own preference now, yeah? There's no golden rule here. It's really how do you want that water to look? That's the question. Do you want it quite distorted, or do you want it a little bit? So I think something like this will be good. Looks like a water reflection now. It looks like it's shimmering, right? The buildings. So it's not like a strong water current. It's quite calm, you could say. And depending on which image you use, right? So if we went back to that website, this website here, and if we went back and we find a completely different picture, we'll get a completely different effect. So depending on the picture will depend on what the effect looks like. So if it was like this, then it will look quite different, right? That shimmer, it will look quite different. Be interesting to see what it looks like with this one. Maybe we'll have a go at that after. But let's say that we're happy with this, and we'll click OK, and then we'll go to File, Save As, and we'll save it as version 3, right? Version 3, save it, and then we'll go to File, Export As, and we'll export it as a, so we'll click on this Select File Type extension, and we want JPEG, click JPEG, click Export, leave it at around 90 compression is fine, click Export. Now we've got a visual of that particular image. We can close it here, and let's go back to our folder, and we'll have the picture here now. Let's drag version, let's see version 1, we'll drag it back into GIMP. Yeah, so version 1 was a good one to save, because now we can go and use a different image, different displacement image, yeah? So we'll save this as version 4, so we'll go File, Save As, version 4, because we're going to make a different version. Let's see what it looks like, and save it. And version 1 we will always keep, because this is version 1. This allows us to get to this point quite quickly. And we'll click New Layer, Create New Layer, Transparency, click OK. In fact, we don't need to do that, but actually, let's delete that. We don't need to do that. Let's delete it. So we're just going to drag the new image into the layers. So let's go back to this website. Let's find a different example of water. I don't know what this is going to look like, how it's going to look, but let's try it, right? Let's see what it looks like. Until you try, sometimes you just don't know. So we'll try a different technique here as well, slightly different one. So just drag and drop this into here. And let's drag and drop this picture into here, into the layers. Let's just give it a go. So we'll drag it to the top. We've got the water effects here. We will click on the move tool, and we're going to move it to position. Let's move it up a little bit. Sometimes it's worth zooming in just to check. You can use the up and down arrows on your keyboard to move it on the pixel level, yeah? So sometimes when you want to move it just a few pixels, use the up and down, left and right arrows. We'll zoom out a little bit, get to this position. We'll use the Unified Transform tool again. So we'll click that, click on the picture, drag that out, but it's a little bit off of the screen here. Drag it out this side, so it's a little bit off the screen. Drag it down, so it's a little bit off the screen. Hold down the Shift key, click on this diamond shape, and drag it out here. Hold down the Shift key, click on this diamond shape, and drag it out here a little bit. And then click Transform. Then we'll go to, we'll click on the top image here. We'll go to Tools, we'll go to Filter, map, displacement map, click on this first one here, then actually we did one mistake here, so click cancel here, cancel, and we need to drag this image to the middle. Yeah, must be in the middle, and click on this top layer here, this top one. Then we'll go to filter, map, displace, click on the top one, click on the middle layer, double click, do this one as well, and then all of these settings are as they were before. If we drag, we can see now a different style. That's just because of the map itself, yeah? Or the water example is a different example, so the effect looks different. You can go and experiment, because you've got that step 1 saved in GIMP. Remember we made the first version? That first version was just this top image and the bottom image. It didn't have the water ripple. So now we can use that version 1, we can keep reusing it and get different styles of this water effect. You can go and experiment. This one might look quite similar to the last one. You can play around with the settings as well, see what they do, right? So right now it's set to none or clamp or loop. Doesn't seem to make much effect, so we can just leave it on none or clamp. It doesn't seem to make much difference. There is this option here to center the displacement here, and what you do is click on this arrow, this mouse icon here, click on it once and it will go black. So when you move your mouse over it, off it will go black color, yeah? That means it's active. And you can click on the canvas in different positions, and then you can like vary that effect. So the higher you click, if you click too high, you can click all the way up here and it won't make no difference. So you need to click closer to the image itself. But if you click around here, then you can see it's rippling at the top and not down here. So as you click further down, that effect will have more effect. You can do like finite adjustments that way as well. So we'll leave it around something like this. Let's just save it like that. Click OK. Then go to File, Save, File, Export As, and we were going to call this, we'll leave it as water 04, yeah? And click Export. It's a JPEG file. Okay, Export. Let's close down GIMP. And we'll open up our folder. I've got a note of where I got those images from. Let me see if let's copy this one, copy it, and I'll put that reference there as well. So in the YouTube description, I'll add these images and where I got them from. So we've got this version, and we have version 4 as well. So they look quite similar, but there are obviously some differences. They're not exactly the same. The effect is slightly more, I don't know, you can describe it however you want to describe it, but you can see the buildings are distorting slightly differently. But it looks pretty good for the time that we spent. We didn't spend ages doing this. There's other ways to do this. I might show that later, but this is kind of the quick, cheap and cheerful way to do it. The top image can be anything, right? It could even be a person. You could represent this. You could do the same effect. So it would have been a person standing there with some background, maybe some trees or something, and then you can do this effect of the water as if they're standing in front of water and there's a reflection below. It doesn't have to be a building. So go and experiment yourself, see how you can make this image, try different images, just play around with it and see what effect you can get, and hopefully you can use this in some artwork later. Maybe stick it on maybe take a photograph of your house and do that, or you can when you're on holiday or something, you can maybe do an effect like that, or some picture when you're on holiday. Just go and experiment, basically, see how you can create something similar to this. So my only advice is make sure you save this version 1, because with that version 1 you can just open it, find a different displacement map, meaning the water effect, and stick it in here, and then never save over this version 1. Always save it as version. It will be actually, if we made another one, it will be called version 5, right? Version 4 was our last one. We'll call it version 5. So that's how you can go about doing that. Okay, I'll close this. I hope you find that tutorial useful. There's some good skill sets in there actually as well, some knowledge. So it wasn't just about creating that reflection. You learned how to stretch images, you learned how to crop images in that tutorial, you learned how to position the images using the alignment tool, how to stretch them and shape them, and you even learned how to blur images in that tutorial, and you also learned how to use the distortion map as well. So quite a few skill sets you learned there in that tutorial. So it wasn't just about creating this image, it was about learning how to use those tools as well. So I'll be doing more tutorials like this, explaining how to use them tools in a practical way. And I look forward to seeing you in the next DCP Web tutorial.